where to stay in Athens and what neighborhoods to avoid. Let me take you through all the possible options in the center. For the coastal areas, the port, and hundreds more Athens tips, I refer you to my full Athens travel guide, which is available on my website. This is an overview that's included in the guide showing where and where not to stay. Obviously, not every street is the same, but in general, try to avoid Metaxurgio, Omondia, and Exarchia. And let us focus on these green areas around the Acropolis. We're gonna discuss them one by one. And we're starting with Monastiraki and Syntagma. Monastiraki and Syntagma are like center. You can basically not be more centrally located, close to so many of the main archaeological sites. All of the highlights are maximum 15 to 20 minutes by foot. The main shopping street is here and a lot of the tourist shops. So it's great if you want to be centrally located and in the middle of that action. Not so great if you want to stay in peace, even though there are quiet streets to be found. Then next to / above Monastiraki is Psyri. Psyri is both very urban, as you can see here, as very lively with many of the bars that both the tourists and the locals go to. It's one of those very popular areas where the locals and the tourists meet. Nice brunch places as well, and still so close to Syntagma and Monastiraki. However, you really have to check if you stay here what street you are in, because unless you yourself are planning on partying all night during the weekend, better check that you are not in or next to a street full of bars. Nightlife in Greece starts and ends late. Then of course we have the famous Plaka neighborhood. Of course this is simply gorgeous. Marble, bougainville, neoclassical houses, mostly pedestrian. So many people are like, I want to stay in Plaka, and I understand. You will also be super close to the entrance of the Acropolis and the Acropolis Museum, whereas Monastiraki, Psyri, and Syntagma are located on the other side of the Acropolis hill. The thing with Plaka is it is more expensive to stay at, it's more expensive to dine at, and the restaurants are not necessarily the best restaurants in Athens because they mainly cater to tourists. So you will be in maybe the most picturesque but also in the most touristic area. Where Plaka ends, Makriani starts, and then Koukaiki. This is where Makriani starts on the side of the Acropolis, and this is the street leading from Makriani to Koukaiki. Lovely, right next to the Acropolis metro station. I think I already stayed 3 times in that area and I loved it. And I love it because you are not in those very touristic busy Plaka streets, but also not where the big traffic is in terms of cars, because there's still a lot of pedestrian streets going around. I also like Koukaiki, which is if you go southwards from Makriani. This has become a very hip neighborhood in the last few years, with many Greeks also wanting to live there. And there's a couple of pedestrian streets as well, full of traditional Greek but also more contemporary bars, brunch, dinner, drinks, whatever you want. Of course, you will be a bit further away from the other side, Monastiraki and Syntagma, but you will be close to the Acropolis, so it kind of depends on what you want to see. It's probably the most local experience closest to the center. And we have Theseo and Petralona here. If you're like, Monastiraki is too busy for me, but I want to be close to those archaeological sites in the center, check out Theseo. There is basically a large pedestrian street around that side of the Acropolis, and that's where Theseo starts, but you can also go further into the neighborhood, and it's literally a 5-minute walk from Monastiraki, but so much more quiet. And then Petralona is of course an additional 15-minute walk from there, but all of a sudden you'll have the feeling as if you're in a village with low buildings, and that's because it's on the back of the Philopappou hill. And to go to the Acropolis, you can either take the shortcut through / over the hill, or you can walk around from Theseo or through Koukaiki. Not many people go here and stay here. Just gonna give you this out of the box option because it's not so far from the center. And on this side we have Kolonaki. Kolonaki is a very chic neighborhood. It's on a hill because it's the start of the Likavitos hill with gorgeous views, as you can see here. Full of those gorgeous neoclassical buildings, luxury boutiques, chic, nice looking coffee places. Extremely safe. The Prime Minister also has a penthouse there. Personally, I love it. The only thing is, to go to town, you have to cross 2 or 3 major streets with a lot of traffic. It also takes 15 to 25 minutes, and the way back is uphill until they finish that metro that they are building. And last but not least, Pagrati. For most tourists, this is an out-of-the-box option too. This is where many Greeks live, but it has a crazy amount of nice restaurants, nice coffee places, crazy nice bakeries. There is some green, as you can see. It is a 25-minute walk to the center, to Syntagma, but the walk goes by the Panathinaik Olympic Stadium and through the National Garden, so that's really nice. And accommodations a little bit further away from the center, like here, tend to be more affordable, because Athens is simply becoming a year-round destination, and that drives up the prices. So if you find nice accommodation here in Pagrati or Metz or anything that is within the green zone on my picture, the green zone, know that it is safe. And of course, the further away from the Acropolis, the cheaper it's probably gonna get. Enjoy your trip to Athens, and remember to grab my Athens guide for more Athens tips.